Merge queries, exercises. First exercise. In the following exercise, we will be creating a list of female patients aged between 20 and 45 years old and merging information for these patients into a smear recall document. And we will be adding a copy of the patient's document to Outbox and save the query. First, I'm going to name my query. Then I'm going to start adding the fields. The very first field that I will be adding is patient is 1, since I'm querying demographic data of my patient. The second field will be gender. And the third field will be the age. All these fields go to the where section of the query. Next, I'm going to set condition for gender equal to female. Next, I'm going to set the condition for the age between 20 and 45. Now I'm ready to populate the select section of the query, and for the purpose of the list query, first I will be adding patient's full name, and next I will be adding the patient ID for merge. I can now run the query. The list is generated with patient IDs next to them. I'm going to save the query, run it again, use the merge button, select male merge option and select a smear recall letter. Ensure that I am adding a copy to patient's outbox when the letters are generated. And since my printer is selected to be a PDF printer, instead of printing a hard copy, I'm going to generate just a list of patient letters into a document on my desktop. So I'm going to press OK. It might take a little while for the letters to be generated. I'm going to save document. So I've generated the letters, I've saved my query. I can now go back to the designer view and carry on with my next exercise. Second exercise for the merge query. In this exercise, we will create a query to list all male patients greater than 50 years old. Use the ID for merge field to enter a task for the patient's next visit to remind them about the importance of prostate checks, and we will save this query. First, I'm going to give my query a name. Second, I'm going to add the fields to the where section. I'm going to start with my patient is 1 field in the patients table. And again, I'm using this field because the only data that I'm querying is demographic data. Secondly, I'm going to add gender. And lastly, I'm going to add patient's date of birth, age. Now let's set the conditions. Gender is set to male. Age is set to over 50. If you're wanting to include those who are 50 and older, we're going to use greater than or equal to. Otherwise, use greater than to exclude those who are exactly 50 years of age. Next, I'm going to populate my select section. And in the select section, you can use either patient's surname and patient's first name, or you can simply use patient's full name. I'm going to choose patient's full name, and next I'm going to add ID for merge. Let's test our query. So we'll run it. And next I'm going to go to the merge option and select patient's next visit. Now we can add the task. If you want to ensure that the task is always added as new, tick the box saying always add new task. And this will ensure that the new task is added even a similar task already exists. And press the OK button. It might take some time for the selection to be applied, so let your database run the query. So the query has been applied, and now we can test this query by picking one of our patients and just making sure that the task has been added. So I'm going to my database and I'm going to add patient's name, make him active on the palette. Next, go to Patients Manager, and under Patient Tasks you will be able to see the task edit about the prostate check. So now we can close Patient Register, return to our query, and we can save this query. This is the end of the second exercise. In our third merge exercise, we will be creating a query to list all patients greater than 65 years old that haven't had a flu immunization this year. And we will use the ID for merge field to generate a patient recall for the flu immunization. And we will be spreading the recalls over the next 3 months and save the query. So first I'm going to clear the field by going Query Store, New Query option. And I'm going to give my query a name. So first I'm going to add patient's age. And I'm adding this field from the patient's table. Secondly, I'm going to deal with the fact that they had no flu immunization. So these patients are eligible to have this immunization but haven't received it yet. So I'm going to swap the table from patient to no immunizations. I'm going to add date of immunization and vaccine code. And as you can see, since I'm using clinical data, the use of patient as one field isn't required for this query. So let's set the conditions for the age first. And in this case, I will be selecting greater than or equal to option 65. No immunization, so we're looking for patients who haven't had the immunization within the current year. So I'm going to be going between today and last year, so last 12 months. And vaccine code will be flu 65. Now I'm ready to populate my select section, going back to the patient table and selecting patient's surname, patient's first name. You may use patient's full name instead, and adding ID for merge. One more field that you may need to consider when dealing with the recall types of merge queries. We may need to add provider name, and this will ensure that when we assign our recalls, we're actually able to select one provider at the time. So I'm going to select CMEs. So at the moment I'm only going to identify those patients who are patients belonging to CMEs and they had no immunizations for flu 65 in the last 12 months and obviously older than 65 years of age, or 65 exactly. I'm going to run the query. So this is my list, and next I'm going to press the merge button and select patient recalls, and recall type will be vaccine, a code will be flu 65, provider, since I've selected CMEs in my designer view tab, I'm going to select CMEs again, and you can only use one provider at a time when you applying the patient merge to recalls. Now I'm going to deal with spreading my recalls over 3 months. The period of time can vary and you can make it longer or shorter as required. Tick the box that says spread over. It shows by default your from date as your current date. You will need a little bit of time to notify your patients and then allow them to make appointments and come to the practice. So I'm going to give myself a week to arrange all of that. And lastly, I'm going to add my to date. So since I've selected this to be spread over 3 months as an example, I'm going to move to the 21st, and then from the 21st I'm going to forward it 3 times. So that's 1 month, 2 and 3, and press OK. And if my patients already have flu 65 recall, I'm wanting to update that recall to a newer date, which will be between 21st of May and 21st of August. So tick the box update existing and press OK. Let's pick a patient on the list just to check that we have a right immunization recall. I'm going to pick patient Smith. And this patient is 82. Make this patient active on the palette, go to the F6 and go to patient recalls, and here you have it. On the 27th of June my patient has flu 65 recall, and you can also see the note indicating that this recall was generated by Query Builder. Our third exercise deals with the query that creates a list of patients greater than 65 years of age that have not had a flu immunization this year. So we'll be looking for eligible patients who haven't received their immunization yet. I'm going to start by clearing the screen, adding my query name, and then I'm going to add a patient field. First of all, I'm going to add patient's age, and the patient's age goes into a where section. We do not need to use patient as one, since we're also going to cross-query patient's clinical data. Next, I'm going to change the field from patient to no immunizations. And here I'm going to select date of immunization and vaccine code. Let's set the conditions. First, patient's date of birth age, and the age has to be greater than or equal to 65. Remember that we do want to include who are those who are 65. The date of immunization will be within the last 12 months, so we'll be going 12 months back. And finally, the vaccine code we are looking for will be flu 65. Now we can go back to patient table, and populate the select section of our query. Patient's full name and patient's ID. ID for merge. Now our query is ready. What we're going to do with this query, we will be applying a recall. And to apply a recall, especially if you want to spread this recall over a period of time for various patients, we need to include a patient's provider, because you can only apply recalls for one provider at a time. So I'm going to add provider to my where section of the query. I'm going to set provider to be Sam Eves, and I'm going to run the query. So these are the patients who qualify to have a free flu immunization, but they haven't received this immunization yet within the last 12 months. I'm going to save the query, and now I'm going to proceed with the merge. Run query, merge, and select patient recalls. The recall type is vaccine. The code is flu65. Provider will be Sam Eves, since we only selected patients who are registered with Sam Eves, the provider. Then we're going to tick the box to spread over our recalls for flu immunization, and my starting point will be a week from now, and my ending point will be the last day of the month. And I'm going to ensure that if my patients already have a flu immunization recall, the recall will be updated. So I'm going to tick the boxes saying update existing and press OK. Okay, patient recalls have been updated. In our last exercise, we will be looking for patients who are casual patients in our database and have no enrollment completed. And we're going to apply an alert to indicate that these patients are not enrolled, and maybe we can suggest when we see those patients next time if they can complete an enrollment form if they wish to make our practice our main health provider. Query store new query to clear the screen. I'm going to give query name. And we will start adding the fields for the querying. First field to add will be patient as one. Next field will be enrollment field. So I'm going to find the enrollment status code, and I'm going to set the condition for the enrollment status code, and it will be decline to enroll. Next, I'm going to populate my select section of the query. I'm going to use patient's full name, and I'm going to use patient's ID for merge. We will test this query now, and now we can save it and run it again and apply the alert through the merge options. Here's my enrollment status alert and the note. If you wish to add auto prompt, please tick the box that says auto prompt, and if you already used this particular alert for a patient and you wish to ensure that the alert has been updated, tick box saying update existing. Press OK to run. Now we applied the alerts to the list of patients on my screen. Query views. There are 4 query views that are available. Designer view is available for all queries, where the query is designed and the criteria are defined. Every single query will have the designer view. the datasheet view, where the query output report is displayed. If I'm going to run the query, the datasheet view will be populated. The datasheet view will be available for all three types of queries: the list, the count, and the merge. The third tab, Spreadsheet View, will be available when a count is defined with field values in the Select section. The Spreadsheet View tab will become available. I currently have a count query on my screen. If I run this query, the Spreadsheet View will be available. And the fourth view that will be available to me if I'm using a count query, the Chart View. When a count query is defined with the field values in the Select section, the Chart View tab will become available. There are three types of charts: bar, pie, and stacked. The Chart View tab demonstrates the bar graph.